Hollywood, huh? A contraption that devours human beings whole. Before he turned his back on the world forever, Gene Hackman made this comment about the town that once catapulted him to greatness. Hackman was very forthright in his most recent interview. Everything that everyone suspected but was too afraid to express was revealed by him. Regarding the shadowy side of the business world. With regard to the reason for his disappearance. And if you believe you're familiar with the plot, reconsider. Section 1. Farewell, everyone. Reasons why Hackman was ignored by Hollywood. Quiet down now. The bright stage lights are out. Top directors have stopped calling. In 2004, Gene Hackman departed from the entertainment industry. A quick and almost unnoticed absence. Then, once they did, nothing but whispers remained. He disappeared without a trace. Even though Gene Hackman, who once held a stranglehold on Hollywood with his renowned roles, was never mentioned. However, why is that? When he could still make a difference, why would a legend choose to just walk away? Was Hollywood the first to abandon him, or did it happen before? As the new millennium began, Hackman's reputation continued to rise. Despite this, major studios continued to approach him with offers to star in their multi-million-dollar films, but he never responded. Supposedly, Hackman was exhausted. Supposedly, he was no longer interested in acting. Rumor has it that he wanted to go away from the limelight and spend time with his loved ones. However, the reality was more complex. Hackman revealed the truth about his departure in an unusual and unexpected farewell interview. It wasn't simply his choice, either. Was Gene Hackman still necessary for Hollywood? When you're useful, Hollywood likes you. A little smile spread across Hackman's face when he stated that. But there was no mirth in his gaze. Had devoted his life to developing multi-layered, emotionally charged characters. No film could have been made without him, he was the heart and soul of them. But Hollywood started to evolve with the years. Screenplays were increasingly repetitive. Blockbusters prioritized spectacular effects and financial success over outstanding acting. Whilst luminaries such as Gene Hackman are still there, they don't quite belong in this new age. He was no longer required by Hollywood. Hackman continued to get scripts prior to his departure. Still, he could muster just a grin as he beheld them. His opponents stopped taking him on. They cut him off from playing emotionally complex, contemplative roles. Commercial films telling tales he had no interest in telling. Worse, even some of the filmmakers with whom he had worked started to see things differently after previously praising him and proclaiming him one of the best performers of all time. "You can still act, Gene, but Hollywood isn't the same now," a producer once told him straight. There are several possible interpretations of that remark. Possibly they were just trying to convey the idea that the market has evolved, or they were hinting that Gene Hackman's name was no longer a certain way to bring in money. It was then that Hackman decided he needed to get out of there. He was determined to avoid oblivion in an industry that had celebrated him in the past. He was against playing one-dimensional parts for the sake of stardom. He was sick of younger directors showing sympathy but without an appreciation for performance. Therefore, he decided to depart before they could fire him. A lesson no one paid attention to: Gene Hackman's retirement was not announced during a news conference. His last part was not advertised in any film. He just ceased taking on roles. Gene Hackman's acting career came to a surprising conclusion with the 2004 release of Welcome to Mooseport, a light comedy. There was a long period of quiet following, with neither a goodbye nor an homage offered by Hollywood. Hackman had vanished from the world he had ruled by the time anybody noticed his departure. The reality is that other legendary figures than Gene Hackman have got themselves into this jam. Many performers have received honors from Hollywood, but as the years go by, other faces take their places. Their youth has faded. The old styles don't work anymore. These once prominent figures no longer bring in billions. Because of this, Hollywood disregards them. Many people, like Gene Hackman, had it all and then were forgotten about. Maybe such things were never important to Hackman. He never clung to his celebrity. He never did anything simply to return to the silver screen. He decided to depart in quiet rather than wait for Hollywood to feel sorry for him. He decided to live a carefree life, unconcerned with the approval of critics or the money he would make from movies. Maybe that was the wisest choice he'd ever made after all. It is possible that Hollywood has abandoned Gene Hackman, a legend that Hollywood has forgotten but which will never be forgotten. True movie buffs, though, knew he was always there. He continues to play those parts. Actors of subsequent generations find inspiration in the films he was in. Even if he has been forgotten by Hollywood, the film industry will always remember him. Because genuine myths and tales will always be around. Chapter 2: The Cost of Excellence. The sacrifice that Hackman had to make. Glamorous lighting, non-stop cheers, and rave reviews. When discussing the legendary actor Gene Hackman, who never performed a lousy role, that's what people perceive. However, there is a reality that is hidden underneath all that glitz and beauty. A price must be paid for success. Even with everything going for him, Hackman couldn't shake that terrible truth. Hackman came into the film industry with an unbridled thirst for ambition. From warehouse laborer and repairman to Marine, he did everything to fund his acting ambitions. Yet lofty aspirations necessitate substantial costs. Hackman came to terms with the fact that a great actor gives up more than simply time once he arrived in Hollywood. Looking back, I question whether I really lived for myself since I spent so much time immersed in the worlds of the roles I portrayed. Picture a typical day for Gene Hackman when he's performing at his best. Every hour of the day, he devoted himself to his duties. To embody the multifaceted roles he played, he immersed himself in character study, tried out different accents, walked around a lot, and even altered his mentality. As one film came to a close, another one went into production. It took hundreds of takes, long days and nights spent filming, to achieve a single shot that was exactly right. There had only one purpose, and that was to create art. People only saw a glowing Hackman whenever his name came on screen in masterpieces like The French Connection, Unforgiven, and The Conversation. On the other hand, his personal life was slowly crumbling. Hackman tied the knot twice. After 30 years of marriage, his first marriage to Faye Maltese ended in divorce. Legend has it that if you prioritize your painting career over your family, you'll end yourself separated from them. Hackman acknowledged he was far from an ideal parent to his 3 children. In his cinematic career, he was so busy that he barely had time for them. In order to advance in my profession, I sacrificed the formative years of my children. A brief expression, yet one that is heavy with remorse. Hackman found it challenging to preserve not only familial ties but also friendships. Relationship building and daily contact with coworkers are not commonplace in the film industry. Things happen far too fast in Hollywood. The two of you are collaborating today. Shooting a new movie on a different continent awaits you tomorrow. At the end of each film, a whole new set of characters and a whole new universe vanish. No one ever tells you that after the cameras stop rolling, you're basically invisible. You cease to exist the moment the shutters close on the film. Reality sets in again, and it may be dreadfully devoid of emotion. After he removed himself from the spotlight, Hackman discovered that being a famous actor was nothing like people thought it would be. People knew he was in fantastic films, but they had no idea what went on behind the scenes. Dinners alone in hotel rooms, family calls never returned, and days when no one could relate to him beyond his on-screen persona. Hackman continued to feel like an outsider even while he was at the height of his career. No matter how famous you are on film, you're still just a regular guy dealing with problems nobody gets. The cost to Hackman's health was substantial. He suffered physical harm as a result of years of intense filming. The mental and physical challenges of playing multifaceted roles, including high-stakes action scenes and nights spent filming. As time went on, Hackman felt he could no longer handle all of it. It was everything handed to Gene Hackman by Hollywood. Acclaim, notoriety, and value. However, the most crucial aspects were also removed. Time, loved ones, companionship, and a piece of his authentic identity. Hackman learned the hard way that success didn't come without a price. In order to achieve greatness, sacrifice is necessary. Sacrifices are necessary for legends to be born. At the end of the day, the only thing to consider is whether or not it was worthwhile. Section 3: The Hollywood Deception. Secrets that Hackman knew but dithered about. For a long time, Hollywood was considered the city of dreams. A fantastical realm where mysteries can be made famous. A location where, with the right amount of skill, one may reach the pinnacle of success that so many others dream of. What the public isn't permitted to see, though, is that. Where does Hollywood get its glitz and glitter from? Hollywood wasn't what people anticipated, and Gene Hackman knew it from his lengthy career in the industry. What he understood had the potential to alter your perspective on a whole sector, even if he never mentioned it explicitly. While being questioned about his experiences, Hackman uttered a chilling statement: "I've seen things that would make you question everything you believe about this industry." From the outside looking in, Hollywood appears to be a haven of imaginative cinema, brilliant performers, and heartwarming tales. This isn't an artistic enterprise, though, and most people don't know that. It is a company. Every aspect is managed. Every action serves a greater purpose. Plus, you might not always assume who is driving this business. Do you ever find yourself wondering what causes some stars to vanish from television? Or why some films that have great potential never get made? The film industry isn't the only thing that happens in Hollywood. Insiders only comprehend the power plays and backroom dealings that take place there. Hackman worked in this field for almost 50 years. The general public would never learn about the agreements he saw. A lack of creative freedom and celebrity contracts that prevent actors from playing parts they truly desire. Movies that were axed because they didn't fit in with the agendas of those in charge. Hollywood outcasts who dared to challenge the status quo, rather than a lack of skill, were put on the blacklist. Even Hackman had to play parts he didn't want to. But he could reject, unlike most others. Unfortunately, not everyone is that lucky. Among the most important inquiries is this: directors, producers, and major studios have a reputation for having too much power in Hollywood. But Hackman was aware that the fictional characters on TV didn't hold the cards when it came to actual authority. Audiences seldom perceive the invisible forces at work. Powerful groups that determine who gets to be famous next, who gets forgotten, and who gets banned from acting altogether. Even though a young actor could become famous instantly, Hackman knew that stardom is never a fluke. We had already planned everything. Many things that Hackman saw caused him to remain silent. In addition to him, the truth about Hollywood has been sought by many performers, but they have always met with harsh retaliation. Exclusion from the game occurs when an actor acts too defiantly. A director's projects are seldom made when they are overly vocal. Plus, those who defy authority just vanish without a trace. This was a guideline that Hackman was well versed in and never naively disregarded. Hackman famously stated that in Hollywood, value is the sole criterion for love. Tell me what this means. A sign that you are unimportant to this group. What you can provide them is their exclusive concern. You are the shining light today. You might not be remembered tomorrow. Those who were formerly so complimentary of you will soon forget about you. The directors that collaborated with you will recruit someone fresh to take your position. At last, it hits you: Hollywood is all business and no pals. Because of what, exactly, did Gene Hackman leave the entertainment industry? For several reasons. He was exhausted. Having fun was important to him. He had had enough of being dominated. Maybe the fact that he was too knowledgeable was the true cause, though. The public's idealized view of Hollywood was a mirage, and he knew it. No one actually comes out on top in this game, he understood it. Sometimes, not even legends stick around. He was also aware that he would eventually be turned into a pawn if he lingered too long. Thus, Hackman departed. He opted to vanish before Hollywood could obliterate him. When he did so, he also left an unanswered question. Will Hollywood always be real, or is it all a mirage? Part for the silent conflicts, the power struggles in Hollywood. According to Hackman, Hollywood is a battleground in and of itself. The public's perception is but a small portion of the entire picture. Warm embraces on the red carpet, compliments during interviews, and incredible on-screen teamwork. However, Hackman knew it from his extensive experience in the field. Underneath every grin is a concealed weapon. Anything can happen in a Hollywood relationship in an instant. People you work with now might end up being your rivals tomorrow. Among his peers, Gene Hackman was among the most prominent actors of his day. However, this also made him an easy target for anyone who wanted to take advantage of him, as he was always seen as an outsider. Fans had no idea that several of Hackman's iconic parts were on the verge of being replaced by other actors. On occasion, he was left out of initiatives that he was supposed to be a part of. Even while some details of Hackman's private confrontations with prominent figures in the industry have never been made public, many in the know are aware of them. When he saw the theft of roles directly, While few are aware, Gene Hackman nearly had his legendary part in 1971's The French Connection almost ruined. Producers first doubted Hackman's ability to play Jimmy Popeye Doyle, the police officer. They desired a more recognizable figure, someone who could ensure financial success at the box office. After other candidates were cut, Hackman was nevertheless subjected to intense pressure from individuals who felt they were more deserving of the position. All that changed, though, when the picture bombed at the box office and Hackman took home the Best Actor Oscar. Because there are always going to be trolls in Hollywood looking to depose you and install a new star, he was the one to watch out for now. Confrontations with influential directors. There were undercurrents between the directors and the performers as well as between the actors themselves. Many of Hollywood's most powerful directors found Hackman's strong character irritating since he was not the type of performer to blindly obey orders. Working with French Connection director William Friedkin was one of Hackman's most difficult collaborations. Friedkin has a reputation for being challenging, severely regulating the set. Being told what to do was something Hackman, being obstinate as he was, hated. What is the outcome? They argued all the time. Although this was not Hackman's sole disagreement with a director. Sam Raimi, the youthful and driven filmmaker of 1995's The Quick and the Dead, was another source of friction between them. Disputes persisted even in their 1992 classic, Unforgiven, which they co-wrote with Clint Eastwood. You're in Hollywood. Actors and directors' real-life relationships may not necessarily translate into their on-screen chemistry. 3. When the politics of the industry derailed ambitious undertakings. The politics of the film industry have stymied the creation of countless excellent films. Actually, it's more than you may expect. At the last minute, Hackman's plans for certain potential initiatives were rescinded. Another actor's reluctance to collaborate with him might occasionally cause the picture to halt. At times, the powerful in Hollywood felt Hackman wasn't the right name to back. Heck, there were occasions when Hackman wasn't even cast because another actor had stronger ties to the producers. That was common. It was something that occurred to every renowned actor. That was it, Hackman knew he couldn't win by fighting the system, so he quit while he could. So, who emerges victorious from this war for power? Nobody knows the solution. The wheel of Hollywood's endless production never comes to a halt. You have become a legend today. Someday, your name will be utterly forgotten. In this field, relationships don't last. The people you're closest to now might wind up stealing your position tomorrow. If your talents no longer align with their vision, the directors who formerly held you in high esteem might never collaborate with you again. Hackman saw that there was no way out of this conflict, so he stepped away from the spotlight and the chaos instead of continuing to fight pointless battles. According to what Hackman remarked, your best friend today could be the one who takes your role tomorrow in the entertainment industry. That was more than just lip service. If they wished to remain in the business, all actors had to face this reality. Whoever wins today can lose tomorrow. The people you put your faith in may have ruined your once-in-a-lifetime chance for great success. Finally, one last question stands. Would you give up everything for a life in Hollywood? Chapter 5, Choosing to Cease and Desist. Because Hackman refused to look back. Not only did Gene Hackman not retire, he disappeared. One of Hollywood's all-time great performers retired from acting without a fanfare, an emotional farewell, or a big commemoration ceremony. He vanished without a trace. Including invites from the most famous filmmakers, I will not participate in any film projects, make any red carpet appearances, or accept any invitations. Hackman knew it was time to depart Hollywood, which had been his stage. A legend in his own right, Hackman was more than an actor. His stellar career spanned the decades beginning in the 1970s and ending in the early 2000s, during which time he received 2 Academy Awards, a slew of other honors, and universal acclaim. However, there is an unpopular truth. Old people don't belong in Hollywood. Being productive is the only way to be valuable in this industry. Even if people give you praise now, they will forget about you tomorrow if you aren't crucial. Early on, Hackman became aware of this. Many of his co-workers who had formerly been A-listers were drained and left by Hollywood, as he witnessed firsthand. He witnessed performers who had been fated in the past slipping into oblivion as they were pushed into supporting roles to keep their careers afloat. Hackman, meantime, resolved he would not allow himself to get into that predicament. In spite of his announcement that he was leaving Hollywood, Hackman kept getting invites. Famous filmmaker Clint Eastwood wants him to work with him again. A number of big studios were prepared to spend millions to get him back on film. The inclusion of Hackman in their films was something that many new filmmakers sought after. Still, he never once said yes. This was not due to his disillusionment with acting, but because he was well aware that he would once again get swept up in the never-ending Hollywood maelstrom if he went back. He was determined not to join the ranks of those exploited elderly actors who have their acting careers cut short by returning to roles that aren't a good fit. Hackman departed permanently. Hackman was never the type of actor to seek fame. He was already famous and didn't require a triumphant return or a last iconic job. He opted for a more modest existence rather than clinging to fame. After decades of being defined by Hollywood and the press, Hackman decided to leave it all behind and settle in New Mexico. He was a regular guy who painted, wrote, and lived his life to the fullest. Hackman casually said, "I've done what I needed to do," when questioned about his absence from the screen. There are some who lack the guts to leave Hollywood while they're still hot. However, Hackman differed from the others. Hackman missed his career even after leaving Hollywood. On occasion, he would still watch his movies again. Sometimes, the sensation of being on camera lingered in his mind. However, he was always content with his choice, for the simple reason that he was afraid he would lose his identity if he remained. He would merely revert to his top performance as Hackman if he kept acting. Going back to Hollywood would ensnare him indefinitely. Hackman escaped while he could still steer his own fate. Audiences will always remember Gene Hackman, even though he left the film profession over 20 years ago. Many people still like and talk about his flicks. He remains an inspiration to the next generation of performers. Additionally, Hackman is invariably included at the top of any ranking of Hollywood greats. His impact was so monumental that he would never have to set foot in Hollywood again. When Gene Hackman decided to quit Hollywood, he didn't mean to retire. He found solace in it. Hollywood is both a fantasy and a trap, that's why. Only the most cunning and courageous will be able to escape before it's too late. That is just what Hackman did, and that is the reason he never turned around. Section 6. The Hollywood fake that they chose to ignore. Gene Hackman was more than an actor, he was a cultural phenomenon. He played unforgettable roles for more than 4 decades. A stern commander in Crimson Tide, a ruthless police officer in The French Connection, and a cunning villain in Superman. It seemed as if Hollywood intended to ignore Hackman when he departed. Unlike Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, there will be no monumental memorial services or commemorative programming. Those reminiscence-filled discussions concerning his career won't last hours. As if the business world preferred to avoid discussing Hackman. As if attempting to remove their brightest light were their goals. Did Hollywood abandon Hackman, or was it the other way around? That is the biggest mystery. Hollywood should have kept mentioning Hackman as one of the best performers even after he stopped from films in 2004. Though they failed to do so. His name was hardly mentioned in tribute shows to legendary figures. Although Hackman's career was equally as impressive as anybody else's, he was sometimes overlooked when talking about the greatest performers of the 20th century. People still spoke more about the filmmakers than Hackman's performances, even when pictures like Unforgiven or The French Connection were lauded. Why? His decision to vanish entirely contributed to the problem. I will not participate in any public events, answer any interview requests, or make any effort to be visible in popular culture. Still another motive existed, though no one dared to mention it. In this field, there is an unwritten norm. You must depart in their preferred manner if you so choose. Assuming the legend continues to work in some capacity, they are happy to plan elaborate retirement celebrations for them. As long as an elderly actor continues to attend events, make appearances on the red carpet, and remain a part of the system, they are willing to accept that they no longer star in films. However, Hackman stood out. Hollywood wasn't necessary for his self-validation. Nobody gave him the go-ahead before he went. He shied away from clinging on or making a triumphant return with a memorable cameo. Just like that, he vanished. Hollywood was uneasy about that. It begs the question, what does it say about the profession when one of its best actors can renounce it all without a trace of regret? Hackman did one last interview before he vanished from sight entirely. This was an interview that Hollywood hoped no one would remember. Not only did he discuss his departure from the profession, but he also revealed details about Hollywood that few dared to mention. Hackman had no ill will. He exhibited no anger. He just spoke what was on his mind. And Hollywood was concerned with that fact. He elaborated on how performers were drained of their value by the industry. He brought up the topic of power struggles and how friends might turn enemies overnight. When he was no longer a movie star, he spoke of the loneliness that elderly performers experienced. Hackman's films continue to receive millions of views, despite Hollywood's efforts to disregard them. He famously quipped, "Hollywood only loves you when you're useful. Actors of the future can take a page out of his playbook." He is widely regarded as one of the most gifted performers in cinematic history by critics. Remembering Hackman didn't require Hollywood. Still, Hackman was necessary to provide as a reminder to Hollywood that genuine acting will always be in vogue. Even if he becomes a legend, Hollywood could forget about him. However, Hackman's name is often included when discussing the top actors of all time. You are not required to return. Keeping out of the limelight is unnecessary. Taking no action is required. The breadth and depth of his career were sufficient to establish his legendary reputation. Hackman could be best forgotten by Hollywood. However, his impact on cinema will last a lifetime. Hackman's final interview served as both a message to Hollywood and a cautionary tale for the rest of us. After seeing how this system ate up many lives and learning its inner workings, he made the decision to go before it was too late. But will his words jolt anyone into action? Alternatively, will Hollywood maintain its denial of the situation?